Okay, that's a head scratcher. Let's talk more about this shift in artificial intelligence and mental health. We're joined by Dr. Rebecca Resnick. She's a licensed psychologist and president of the Maryland Psychological Association. Thanks very much for talking to us. In that piece, it really outlined, I guess, what the strengths could be, but man, there are a lot of drawbacks. So how has AI been used in mental health so far?
So AI, of course, has been around for much longer than people think. And when we talk about how AI has been used in the mental health domain, there are two main ways, one of which is analytics. And as we all know, AI is fantastic at using big data to track things that are very complicated and perhaps even very subtle. So AI is great at tracking things like symptoms, moods, behaviors. AI can do something that no clinician can do, which is called ecological momentary assessment, or EMA. And this is keeping track of people, how they're doing 24/7. So if a patient comes to see a clinician perhaps once a week, they're not likely to be having a crisis at that particular time. And so what we can do is use AI to make sure that they're okay at 3 in the morning when they're lying there awake worrying about their bills.
You know, as someone who dealt with anxiety and panic attacks in the past, when I saw that thing come up, the 6 things that you can do, look, anybody that's experienced even mild anxiety knows there are breathing exercises, relaxation techniques, and talk to someone. At that point, I'm fuming, and I'm like throwing the thing across the room. I want to talk to a person. So talk to us about the potential challenges of AI working its way into mental health.
So what clinicians are mainly worried about is twofold, one of which is privacy. Of course, we know that there are a lot of apps and such and online platforms that are harvesting our data. And certainly we know with respect to the employer-employee relationship that this is something business leaders need to be very concerned about, is protecting the privacy of employees. And we need to be concerned as well about efficacy. So we shouldn't be using any kind of chatbot or AI that has not been very carefully vetted by an independent, unbiased clinician. And if people are interested in learning more about how you find things that actually have been vetted, there is the One Mind Cyber Guide that can be looked up. And they even have a guide for business is for employers. It's called the Cyber Guide for Employers to Digital Tools. And again, I'm not talking about this because it's like a business or I have any vested interest. This is actually an independent organization that is attempting to provide unbiased information, so nobody makes a profit.
Rebecca, what about the economic impact of this? Is there any reason it would be out there because it's cheap and easy?
Well, absolutely, cheap and easy is very desirable. As a clinician, I am expensive. The World Health Organization estimates that there are 12 billion working days lost just to mental health problems alone every single year, and they estimate that that cost in lost productivity is $1 trillion a year. And we have a severe shortage of mental health care providers, as you addressed. Most of the providers are working more hours, and they are having longer and longer wait lists. We also have mental health deserts in this country. So for a lot of your audience working in more rural areas or in the middle of the country, their employees may be living in a place where there's absolutely no access to a mental health care provider. There are 570 counties in this country without providers. And if you run a business and you worry about productivity and your employees' overall quality of life, it's very hard to find enough providers to meet the needs. So these tools are so important for supplementing. You know, your HR department can only do so much, but if they can use these tools wisely and mindfully and compassionately, then it can make your HR team go a lot farther.
You know, I'm curious how traditional therapists are reacting to this growing use, and maybe contrast and compare it to what we've seen in like education and journalism.
Absolutely. So clinicians, you know, as a breed, we tend not to love technology, but for some of us, we're really interested in how technology can reach those people in underserved populations or people living in these mental health deserts. I'm personally very excited to see how these tools can expand our reach and help, help people that are just these untreated, suffering populations, like, for example, veterans who tend to be spread out all over the country in areas where they can't get to a provider. So if we can use these things to expand our reach in a way that is secure and safe and protects people, I think we need to start expanding how we think about them, not as the enemy that's going to replace us, but as tools that we can use to enhance our patient care.
You know, the whole veterans thing got me thinking just a bit, because a lot of people find strength in numbers, and if they can be in sort of a group setting, could AI address those kind of needs? Because I imagine a lot of troops coming back from Afghanistan, Iraq, or other areas suffering from PTSD have the same concerns, have the same issues, and could AI be plugged in there at all?
The Veterans Administration is actually one of the great leaders in AI and data analytics and using tech tools. I was privileged to be a speaker at at the Veterans Administration's AI Brain Summit over the summer, and it's just astounding the work that is being done there. And of course, in this country, typically our technological advances come through the Department of Defense, and then, as they're shared with veterans, then the rest of the population gets them. So I think we're going to see these wonderful tools are going to become more commonplace in the VA. They're going to test them, vet them very carefully, and then share them with the rest of the population.
A lot of thoughtful comments there. Dr. Rebecca Resnick, we certainly appreciate your time. Thank you.
My pleasure.